everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'm going to show you a design team project for Trinity Stamps. Today I'll be using the Mouse House stamp set that you see here. You can see that I went ahead and stamped out a few of the images from the stamp set. I stamped on Bristol cardstock, which is really nice for watercoloring, and I did stamp all the images out with my versafine onyx black ink, and I clear heat emboss them. This just helps me to stay within the lines when I watercolor. Sometimes if I'm too heavy-handed with the water, a lot of the times will go outside the lines, so having that embossed really helps to keep the color inside those stamped lines. So I am using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers here. I'm using 2 markers per image. They're really small, and I'm using my water brush kind of as my highlight color. You can see that I'm adding the darker color to the edges of each of these mushrooms, and I'm going over the darker marker with my mid-tone, and then I take my water brush and I blend those 2 markers together and move the pigment towards the center to create a center highlight. And that is how I typically color with my zigs. I usually only use 2 markers, and then I'll use my water brush as that highlight color. And I love using my zigs if I want to do some quick coloring. If I wanted some more shading or detail, I would typically color with my Copics, but today I really just wanted to make a quick card, so I did reach for my zigs. You can see on some of the images I'm only going to use 1 marker. So for that snail, I just added the green marker towards the top of his body, and then I used my water brush to pull that color down, and that creates a second lighter color. So now I'm going to color in my mice. I'm going to use 2 shades of gray here. Again, I'm doing a center highlight, so I'm adding most of the shading around the edges of the mice and then where 2 objects meet, so underneath the mice bodies, so the head would naturally cast a shadow there, and then underneath their arms I will add a little bit more of a darker color there. For their ears I'm going to make them pink, but I thought that the pink was a little too bright, so I'm going to mix the gray over the pink using my water brush to just mute it down a little bit. And then I will just run all of those images through with their coordinating dyes through my Gemini, and then we can get started on the card. So I'm going to create a slimline shaker card. I don't think I've ever made a slimline shaker before, and I thought that it would be fun to use the Trinity Stamp window slimline dies to create the shaker. But I did do some die cutting off camera. You can see I cut a hillside from light green cardstock, some grass from a darker green cardstock, and then I cut some white cardstock with the cloud die from those border slimline dies that I just showed you. All 3 of those dies come in that set. And I'm using the clouds as a stencil to add some clouds to my sky. I did cut out a stitched rectangle slimline die from some watercolor paper, which is my favorite paper to use whenever I ink blend. You can see now I'm layering that grass on top of the stitched rectangle, and then I'm going to cut those windows out. And I decided to run the grass through as well because I wanted the grass to have the same stitch lines that are on the squares that die cut out. So here I'm just popping out those squares, and I'm going to keep those. I will inlay them back inside the card. I'm going to now attach the grass with my art glitter glue. And then I'm going to place those squares back inside the panel that I die cut. And then I'm going to take that hillside that I cut from the lighter green cardstock, and I'm going to lay it on the bottom of the panel, trying to figure out which direction I want it to go in. And I decided to pop it up, so I'm going to use some of my U-line foam tape, add a strip of that across the bottom. And then I wanted the stitch lines to be on that hillside that match the stitch lines on that rectangle that I'm using. So I ran that through using that rectangle die, and now I have stitch lines on the bottom and on the sides of that hill. And now I'm rearranging the squares so that it matched up with the cloud stencil in the background. And now I'm taking my die cut images and I'm just going to lay them out onto my scene. And you're going to see that I'm going to switch some things around, trying to figure out what I want this to look like. I decided that my sentiment will be stamped on this long banner, and this banner is from the rectangle and banner slimline dies from Trinity Stamps. I'm going to use all 3 stamps from the stamp set. So the one that I'm about to stamp onto that right square says "Have a Mice Day," and I'm stamping that out with versafine onyx black ink. And then the sentiment on the left says "Hey Fungi," which is really cute and it pairs really nicely with all the mushrooms that I'm adding to the scene. And then in the center, I'm going to stamp out "So Thankful for You," parentheses, and cheese. That's why I added 2 slices of cheese next to the sentiment. I thought that was really cute. And I like this layout, so I'm going to go ahead and glue everything down now. Some of those die cuts I am gluing on directly onto the squares, and then some of the mushrooms I'm gluing onto the die cut panel. I'm now going to glue the cheese slices, and then I will adhere my banner sentiment. And then to create the shaker, I'm going to add acetate behind all of these windows. And I actually use transparency film. I get it from Amazon, and it's actually overhead transparencies. And I guess that teachers still use this stuff because you can buy it, and it's really cheap. I will have it linked down below. I've been using the same pack for like 2 years now, and if you follow me, you know that I love adding acetate to any cards, not just shakers, so I do use up a lot of acetate. So now I'm going to add foam tape behind that window frame. And I actually have double mounted foam tape by Uline. So that is what I used behind the die cut panel. Now I'm taking those squares, I'm adding art glitter glue behind them, and I'm using the panel as a guide to help me know where to glue these squares onto my card base. For all my slimline cards, I cut them down to 8 3/4 by 7 1/2, and I score at 3 3/4. For my shaker bits, I'm using some pink and main yellow sequins, and then I'm also going to add some Trinity Stamp clear sequins. These are iridescent. I just wanted some bright colors, so I like that pop of yellow, and then those clear ones add a subtle shine to the shaker bits. So to seal those sequins inside the shaker, I'm just going to glue the panel right on top, and then I'm going to glue down the last remaining die cuts. For this mushroom, I'm going to add foam tape because I wanted it to be level with the hill. And then I'm going to glue down my last little mouse, which I'm going to have standing on top of that mushroom towards the left. And then that's basically going to complete the shaker. This card did not take me a whole lot of time to do. I didn't do any ink blending apart from the clouds in the background, and the coloring was super quick, as you saw. I thought just to finish this card it would be nice to have some of the sequins that were inside the shaker be on the outside of the card, so I'm pouring out some of the yellow sequins and the clear ones, and I'm just going to scatter them around my card and attach them with my art glitter glue. And then that's going to complete the card. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching me over at the Trinity channel, I will have my channel linked down below if you want to see other creations that I've made. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I am so close to 3,000 subscribers. So yes, thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!